Keep it going for Mike Lawrence, everyone!
Guys, give it up for Anthony, everybody. Yeah! Let's start by telling you guys a story. The first time I ever said I love you, it was in an AOL chat room, of course. My screen name was Poetic15 because I was a poetic 15-year-old and I wanted the ladies to know it. And I'm in this chat room, I'm spouting my poems, and this girl, Iguana Lover 69, comes in and she's like, "Hey, I like your poetry." And I was like, "Why don't we move this to a private chat?" And I realized that sounds more like a Seinfeld bass guitar and less like an erotic bass guitar. "Hey girl, let's do it." So we're in the private chat and I'm like, "What are you into?" She's like, "Comic books." I'm like, "Me too." I'm like, "What else?" She's like, "Wrestling." I'm like, "Me too." I'm like, "Anything else?" She's like, "You and your beautiful smile." And I'm like, "I love you." 27 minutes in, it was time-stamped. And I was like, "Why don't we meet up sometime, like at a coffee shop or something?" She's like, "Why don't I meet you at your place at 164 Paradise Way?" And then I have to type out, "Oh my God," because OMG hadn't been invented yet. And I bring in my dad, he's furious. And we ask all these questions, we get no answers back. My dad cancels all of his credit cards. 30 minutes later, we get a knock at the door. It's my brother, and he just goes, "Iguana Lover 69, bitches!" And that's how I got incestuously chatfished. And the worst thing about this was me and my brother were never close growing up because I thought he never understood me as a person. And in the 27 minutes that I had talked to Iguana Lover 69, he said everything I ever wanted to hear someone say. And that is the worst feeling in the world, to realize that your brother's a horrible douchebag, but an incredible listener. What was amazing was 2 years after that happened, he got arrested for aggravated stalking, and when they took him away, I was like, "Oh my God, I was his first." Terrified about this election. Who's terrified about this election? Are we all just scared? It's crazy. It's so weird. I hope it comes down to Trump and Sanders. I really do, because that'll be the closest we ever get to seeing two wizards cast spells at each other. I love Bernie Sanders so much. He always looks like he's teaching science outside of a college that just fired him. You gotta learn about plate tectonics! You know that you're radical when you're running up against someone who might become the first female president in history, and that doesn't seem like a progressive idea. She's gonna win, and we're gonna be like, "This crap again, the system's broken." In Trump, he serves a purpose. He lets you know which of your family members you don't have to acknowledge anymore. He's easy to make fun of. Ted Cruz, that's the guy to be terrified of. That guy is evil looking. He's a weird face, right? He's the only person who looks like they're smelling a fart, but is clearly the one who farted. It was me, right? He looks like if Mrs. Doubtfire put man makeup on top of the Mrs. Doubtfire makeup. It doesn't even feel like these people are running for president. It feels like they're running to take over the chocolate factory, right? What happened to the fat one? He drowned in a river 3 weeks ago, right? I feel like every time one of them leaves, the Oompa Loompas should have to come out and do a song. How do we make America great? Fill everyone with Mexican hate. Poor Jeb. There's nothing sadder than losing and saying to yourself, well, I guess I've got to go back to Florida now. I'm from Florida. It's the worst place ever. Florida's like a garage sale that you drive past. You're like, I'm not ready to stop and look around now, but when I give up, I'm coming back. And I grew up poor in Florida. Here's the best thing about being poor. You're never attacked in horror movies. It's true. Freddy Krueger never attacks poor people because their dreams are too sad for him to invade. There's just some guy sitting around going, one of these days I'm going to be assistant manager of this Waffle House. And Freddy Krueger's like, I can't kill what's already dead. I like that things are getting more progressive. I think it's awesome that gay people can get married. I'm not homophobic at all. I look at homophobia the same way I look at skydiving. I would never do it myself, but everybody who does looks like they're having a great time. And I think it's great that transgender people get to be themselves now. That's awesome. I went to high school with a transgender woman. I knew her as John. She is Audrey now. She recently called me about her transitioning. She was like, I was always meant to be a woman. It's who I am, and if you have any questions about it, let me know. And I was like, yeah, just one. I lent John my copy of Happy Gilmore on DVD 10 years ago, and I never got it back. And she was like, John never really existed because I was always meant to be Audrey. And I was like, you know, that's a real bitch move. And she was like, thank you for accepting me. I just think like people we get so offended so easily. Everyone's so PC. Like we even get offended for the wrong reasons. Like me and my friend were walking past this bar, and there was a sign that said live midget tossing every Friday night. And he goes, you know, they like to be referred to as little people. And I was like, they also like to not be thrown around. I think that's the more important issue, right? I'm a human being! I had the worst job ever. I worked at McDonald's for 7.5 years. Because when you love life, life loves you back. And I was on stage recently, and I said to the audience, I was like, I bet I've had the worst job of anyone here, and no one could top it. This one guy goes, oh yeah? Well, I did 3 tours in Afghanistan. And I was like, oh yeah? Well, I served my country for 7.5 years at McDonald's. And then this woman in the back just yelled out, Wendy's for 18! The soldier stood up, saluted us both, and said, I've never seen such courage and bravery in all of my life. I watched the Oscars last night.